Multitasking.
Multitasking.
Are you all set?
Yep,
We're on?
we're on.
All right. We'll call this meeting of the Jamestown City Council to order, work session, November 8th, 2021. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the council tonight? Anybody? I forgot to call the roll, if you want to call the roll.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
Councilmember Sheldon?
Here.
Brackman? Here. Kaluba? Olson?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Eklund? Here. Brad Reinhardt?
Here.
Russell? And President Hicks.
Here. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our committees. Kim, did you want her to go first? Krista, or should we just wait, she can do it in finance?
Yeah, we can do it at the end of finance.
Okay.
Okay.
That was item number 5
Okay.
on our budget, or on our agenda anyway.
Did we have housing tonight, Brant?
We did.
Okay.
Crazy on Main Street.
Okay, so finance, we had some resolutions. First resolution was to authorize the city controller to make the following amendment to the 2021 general fund budget for the purpose of paying the New York State Police and Fire Retirement System annual invoice in full. So they'll increase appropriations $185,000 and increase revenues $185,000. We have two other resolutions that are closely related. First, number 2 is authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 3 to the Ladder 1 refurbishment agreement with Pierce Manufacturing. Add additional refurbishment cost of $7,477.00. That was passed. We discussed it in detail, and there are some things that Pierce will not let go without those refurbishments being done, and those are all being addressed and taken care of in the $7,477.
Is that the last one, Kim, or? Yeah, that's the last one?
It is, sir.
Okay.
Yep, we expect this to be the final one. Yep.
Thank you.
And resolution number 3 correlates to that. That's authorizing the city controller to make the following amendment to the 2021 general fund budget for the purpose of funding additional repairs to Ladder 1 as follows. Increase appropriations $7,477 and decrease appropriations from the contingency of $7,477. We had a couple items for general discussion. The first one I'll let Ryan talk about, and that was the third quarter sales tax update.
Last week, the city received its third quarter sales tax payment in the amount of $2,254,000. That represented an increase of $271,000 or 13.7% above 2020 and $327,000 or 17% above 2019. So significantly above both of the last couple of years for the third quarter. Our total budget this year is $6.7 million. So of that, we've collected close to $6.1 million, which is about 90% of the budget after the first 3 quarters. Comparing that to the last year, we were at 77.4% for the first 3 quarters. So on track to hit our budgeted sales tax for 2021.
And then some.
Good news, thank you, Ryan. And then we just had a brief discussion about the budget before I let Crystal talk. I want to review some things. Obviously, we have the work session tonight. Council amendments are due 11/10. I know as a group, we haven't discussed anything that we feel 100% committed on, and with people out, I don't know that we want to include anything for the published date. So I will keep you apprised if I hear something. I mean, I know we've all discussed something, but I don't think we've reached final agreement on anything.
Okay.
So then we have next week's meeting. Is there any department heads that any of you wish to hear back from, that you had more questions from, that you want to present at on 11/15, or you just want to have a general discussion?
You've asked Kristen.
I'm getting it. Okay. 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 All right, I will try out chambers. Okay? Because we don't meet the following Monday, as of right now,
The 6 p.m.?
6 p.m., yep. And then the meeting at the end of the month, 11/29. Obviously, we have to have the budget passed by 12/1. So, in light of that, if anybody has any suggestions, anything they want to add, please email me and also include the finance committee, if not everybody, and the department head you're proposing an amendment to.
Just a thought to throw it out there. I know in years past we've added extra. What if, so we really only have one work session left next week to formulate any changes to the budget. That would still require us, if we go past obviously Wednesday, to make amendments from the floor. I just want to throw it out there as a possibility. Would you rather have the hearing on a Monday and then have a discussion about final things on a Monday evening rather than come on a Friday? It's just an idea. Or do you feel comfortable that we can wrap this up in one work session next week or bring amendments on the night of the vote? We would be voting on the budget on the 29th, because as you know, by charter, it has to be passed by December 1st, so that would be our last
If we
chance.
go back to past history, we don't ever have it ironed out that Monday. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, I'm just throwing it out there, and
Not opposed to it, but I don't
If you
want
wanted
to
it-
meet just to meet if people.
no, but, I mean, if you felt comfortable doing that rather than, you're gonna come back on a Friday for a hearing, that's fine, we can just do that.
Ken, do you have a list of any proposed changes that you or the finance committee have come up with so far?
Up to the entire council to propose those at this point in time.
Well, I'm just saying, do we all know any of them that have been proposed?
I've got nothing.
So we can,
You had asked for an Excel spreadsheet. Did you get that?
For which?
Or,
No, I never did.
The detail.
No, but Ryan sent me some stuff that, yes, he did. Let me rephrase. There's some things I did not get. The ARPA detail, I did not get, but the regular budget, yes,
Okay,
yes, Ryan did send that.
okay.
so the other option would be that next week, because we have a regular work session, those details would be presented at that, whatever's out there, so. I guess
But I
we'll just
think
do
this
that.
was kind of confusing still too, we have that block revenue part that we can use, but then the rest of the capital funds and when we get started with that and what it can be used for versus what it can be used for. So, I know I don't want to get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and you have time, I mean, the deadline for the amendments is Wednesday, but that's just for the public hearing, anything can be done all the way up to the 29th, even the night up.
The night of.
And that's usually what happens.
So, Ryan, the ARPA detail, I know the mayor seems to be confused on what I'm asking for. In one meeting, we stated we were just approving set amounts, but that's true and not true, because there's detailed projects in that ARPA. For instance, we're gonna go back to the dog park. What's in that $250,000? What makes that up? I think, to be fair, instead of striking out an entire dog park, this council owes it to look at the details to see, is there something, part of it, all of it, whatever, on all those projects. So that's what I think this council is needing.
Yeah, there are, within the budget book, there are, a project page for each project, and I think there's probably more detail behind all of that from a department head perspective that they would have, right? So.
Right. That I think, it's just an overhead look, but I think that overhead, when we're asked to approve a budget that includes ARPA funding and ARPA projects, it's very difficult to keep them separate without the detail. And I think there's a lot of commingling and a lot of things. If you gave us that budget without any ARPA in it, you know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying from a financial point? So.
The only thing that really is being proposed in this budget is just the $5 million of lost revenue, right? The rest of all of the economic development and all of that are just kind of high-level programs, as the mayor stated.
Yeah, well, I would agree and disagree, because that's not public perception when we vote on that budget. They think we're approving that $250,000 dog park, or that piece of equipment, or, you know, I mean, I think we need to be very clear on that. And there's a lot of talk about making changes and giving public safety more. So, I mean, I think we owe that to do its due diligence. So, anybody have anything further before I ask Crystal? I asked Crystal to come back tonight because I felt she was kind of pushed and rushed through the last meeting because we were pushing for time. So in all fairness, I asked her to come back, and I'll let you take it from there, but I know you
Okay.
prepared some stuff for us.
All right, I gotta figure out, okay. Try to like pull it away so it's not right on my face.
You gonna sit it- were you gonna
Yeah,
sit
I'll just
there?
sit right here.
You're a videographer.
I'm doing a terrible job of the videography, by the way. I did just put together a letter today. I think I talked about quite a bit of what's in the letter at the last meeting. I don't know that you want me to read the whole thing. It's kind of lengthy, but as far as anything specific, I think I touched on quite a bit of what our department does and what our needs are. Maybe something to highlight is that we did hire 2 new target enforcement officers. They do start training this, actually they started today. They'll finish their training in February. Our other recent hire, who is our rehab and code enforcement officer, he actually passed his final exam on Friday. So he passed with flying colors. He scored a 96. So we were very happy for him. You know, capacity building is something that we've heard a lot about from HUD. It's something that they have indicated is required, and that it's absolutely necessary for us to remain in good standing with receiving our annual allocations. So, and I don't know that anybody here could probably argue that capacity building is absolutely necessary when it comes to code enforcement. As far as, you know, economic development, we talk a lot about housing because I think that that's, you know, top of mind all the time, and it's something that's very visible and hard to ignore, and it's certainly something that keeps me up at night. We're working sort of behind the scenes on developing some new ordinances and trying to add more tools to our toolbox when it comes to how we can make ourselves more efficient, more effective, and to, you know, not only build capacity in a way of adding staff, but streamlining some of our policies and procedures and the way that we do code enforcement. So, and then that stretches across the board. It goes for, it is a department-wide, all of our policies and procedures. Actually, we're writing many of them for the very first time. So I think it's, you know, for me, it's something that's important so that we know we have a process. We don't have to wonder what the process is for, you know, different things, that we are all kind of working from the same playbook. And yeah, just really trying to streamline the way we do things and to be able to, we're spread thin, so to try to take some of that off our plates. 2020, 2021 have been tough for economic development, for I think a lot of obvious reasons. But we've been very busy. Over the past year, we awarded almost $1 million in grant funding through the CARES Act funding that we received from HUD. Part of that went to 38 businesses, almost, I think it was 100 individuals by way of rental assistance and utility assistance. And we did that on top of our normal annual allocation of HUD funding. So those programs did not stop, those continued as well. We have 13 home projects currently in process, 6 emergency repair projects. Some of those have been completed. 2 rental rehab projects, 2 handicap accessibility projects, 2 North Main Street target area projects that are various stages of progress. So even with all of the new HUD funding that we have, you know, immediately we're meant to be in response to the pandemic. You know, we put it together very quickly and we rolled it out, and administration of those programs has to continue. There's reporting that we will have to continue to do. So even though the money has been dispersed, we have to continue to follow up with business owners and individuals and make sure that criteria has been met, and then put reports together to go back to HUD. And then that's on top of all of the regular programs that we administer. Now, if there's anything specific, I'm happy to answer any questions, or if there's questions about any.
I have a question. Where do you think we are with the courts right now? Because it's probably been, are we getting?
I can tell you where we are.
Okay.
We don't have court again until December 10th. I think that we will see a change for the new year. And I hope that with a new judge, a new schedule will come along with that. I know that courts are very far behind when it comes to all cases. You know, I think there's a lot of catch-up that is being done, and housing doesn't always rise to the top of the list of priorities. We are continuing to prioritize based on, unfortunately, most egregious cases and most critical to public safety. And we'll continue to do that and try to push through as many as we can. We've been pushing the envelope a bit. We are limited to 10 cases per court date, and we've definitely exceeded that a few times and have been told that we can't. Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's we're doing the best we can with the time that we have.
I don't know how many years ago was they added another family court judge in the county, because there were so many cases. And I don't know if that's even a realistic, you know, possibility or not, but.
Yeah, I am not sure, and I'm not as familiar with the court system as, you know, our attorneys, and I know that there's a state level that is involved, and so it's not something that we could just add another judge.
Yeah, and it was about 7 years ago, we added a second full-time judge to the state. For years, we only had one full-time judge and one part-time.
How many employees do you have in your department?
Oh my gosh, of course you're gonna ask me this. 10,
10?
I think, maybe 11. I have to remember the new people.
How many would you say are development focused versus how many are housing code focused? Like, is there anybody dedicated to development?
Yes,
Okay.
so Stephanie Wright is our economic development coordinator.
Okay.
I will say she is really transitioning from, she was doing a lot of the administration of our HUD programs. She still is, but we're trying to transition her away from specifically the home-related programs, because she wasn't always being used in the best way possible, and she really is starting to get more focused on economic development. She's been fantastic. She's done a number of business roundtables. So we did a series of business roundtables that she organized and planned and reached out to everybody and facilitated for the most part. And she's really, like I said, we're trying to transition her from focusing on all HUD-related projects to more economic development specific.
Okay, so she's pretty much the only one though dedicated full-time to,
Yeah, so we also have our principal planner, so she is, as a planner, is focused on economic development and community development and housing.
and that's,
Ellen Shadle,
Ellen.
yep. And then we also recently brought on Casey Polk, who is our, planning and research specialist. And she replaced, Jeff Hollern, who left almost 4 years ago. So we just recently were able to fill that position. So she also will focus on, economic development and community and housing development type initiatives.
I just wanna make sure we don't lose
Mhm.
focus on that,
Mhm.
obviously, as we start to come out of COVID and things are starting to happen again, we wanna
Yeah.
make sure that, you know, we're putting ourselves out there as
Yep,
a
yep.
place to do business.
Absolutely.
You mentioned you had 13 home projects, so you now have contractors?
That's funny.
Okay.
No. We do have some contractors, and these projects are all in various stages,
Okay.
of progress. Some of them are close to being finished up, and we're waiting months for just that one contractor to come back and finish that one little thing. I do anticipate that, it's going to be frustrating for the next year and a half, I think, with trying to get contractors who are available, who have staff. There are supply chain issues that we anticipate as well. So it is probably going to be, it's probably going to be slow going, in all honesty, for a little while, until some of those issues start to, get resolved. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't continue to add new projects. So even if there are some projects that are languishing because they need the one contractor or they need just the one last thing, that doesn't keep us from being able to start a new project. So, as we are awarded our annual HUD fund allotments, we, continue to receive applications and process them, and, you know, it kind of is just always a rolling process, so.
Crystal, what is the consultant?
That's a line that was added, last year, maybe it was 2020. And it was, a short-term, contract that we had with a gentleman. As we were going through our HUD monitoring, he assisted us with, starting to put together our standard operating procedures. And, he also assisted us with, kind of getting the preliminary documentation and applications together for the CARES Act funding. We kept the line. I don't anticipate that it will, you know, it's a large number. I don't anticipate that we will need something like that, but we wanted to just make sure that should we need it, we still are listing it. Todd Peterson currently is doing some training for us, so he would fall under that line item. Certainly not, you know, $20,000 worth of time, and I anticipate he'll be wrapping up probably by the end of the year.
I just don't see the line in 2021.
You know, I think it was put in with, I will double check this, but it may have been listed in wages and expenses. I don't know if you remember, Ryan.
I think John broke it out this year.
He broke it out this
Yeah.
year, but I think last year it may have gotten, looped in with wages and expenses.
Okay, if that's the case, then can you send the details of wages and expenses for your department, because that's a significant number.
Absolutely.
Adding that 20 on top of it,
Mhm.
it's almost 98,000.
Yep, I can do that.
Anybody have anything else for Crystal?
Okay,
That's it from finance.
all right.
Good job, Matt.
I didn't know you were gonna be a cameraman.
Thanks, Matt.
You're very welcome.
All right, now.
You keep the wheels of government running.
We did have a housing meeting, nothing on our agenda, we did have one member of the public to address some concerns, the block of Buffalo, Faulkner, Dexter, and East Second Street regarding houses and businesses there. Director of Development was there, and answer some of your questions. And, it's a complaint that we'll be looking into as well. That's all we have from us.
Okay, any questions? Public safety?
Okay, we had the same three resolutions that finance had regarding the increased general fund for police and fire retirement system and the additional refurbishment cost on our road. We did have three items for informational reports. One is the special event, the annual Veterans Day service, will be held this Thursday, November 11th, at the corner of Third and Main Street at 11 a.m. Actually approved last week electronically. Discussion on the.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Is there anything at the Veterans Park before that, you know, that, not that we had approved, but does anybody know?
I believe that they were looking at that on that.
Okay.
Is that the blue ceremony?
No.
I think it's the Veterans Council.
Regular Veterans Council.
I don't know what time it is. I think it's usually 10, and then that's 11, and then I think St. Luke's has the, well, what you follow, I guess.
I can follow up with you and.
Yeah.
Let
It's
us know.
somehow, and I
Yeah.
think I went to all three last year,
Yeah.
and they were like one after the other, but I don't know if there's anything in cemetery. I think there was, because, were you doing last year?
No.
No. No, it was, Dennis. I remember talking about the cemetery, so there's, if, you know, we could have a, put that out, people could make some or all, any of it. 3 or 4 different, Veterans Day ceremonies, things going on in various places.
Okay, now we had Representative Patrick Marlowe from the Children's Coalition, who stepped up to be the main sponsor of the holiday parade this year, since we had a budget for that. We have many co-sponsors and collaborators and will be contributing to pay for the cost of fireworks this year. And pretty excited. We just presented the application to our meeting, so we haven't had a chance to review it or approve it. We'll be doing it next week.
What's the date on that?
Saturday, December.
Saturday or?
Yeah, it's on a Saturday.
Fourth.
Fourth,
December
is it
fourth.
Saturday?
Saturday this year.
Not a Friday?
No, it's gonna be Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, they have some other events that they're working on. He also works on the Toys for Tots program, and they're doing an event Friday at the, something in Berlin. There'll be a fun run, 1 mile fun run from Veterans Park down to First Plaza. There's a craft show too, sponsoring something with the Toys for Tots as well. It'll be a full weekend of events there. Nice that,
I think it's nice on Saturday, gives people more time. Friday was always like,
yeah.
you get out of work and people run around.
So where will the fireworks be at?
They're gonna be shot off the roof of the parking lot.
Just like Monday.
We install, protecting the work that has been done in the parking lot. That was a concern I had. I put a lot of money into the parking lot, and blow it out with the fireworks. We will have more to follow next week on that. We're excited. And then finally, we had a update on the Police Reform Commission from Councilwoman Graham. Give that again.
I'll give that again, sure. So we kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start, but we had a second meeting earlier last week on Thursday. We had it via Zoom. So it was a really good meeting. We got a report from Officer Reinhardt about the mentoring programs that have been started, and they started off well. A little slow right now because some of the students in the mentoring program are doing fall sports, but he anticipates those mentor-mentee matches to continue after the sports season is done. One of the things we placed in the Police Reform Collaborative was to increase the number of neighborhood watch communities that we had in the area. But we're recognizing that people's habits and patterns are different. And you know, they kind of have a way to communicate anyway with Facebook groups that are private and such. So he talked about this Neighbors by Ring app. Most people are downloading that and connecting to that, whether you have Ring as your security system or not, you can access that. And it gives you information on kind of things that are going around your neighborhood. And if you have Ring, then it allows JPD to, I think you have to agree to it, to allow JPD to access your cameras if they need to investigate anything in your neighborhood. So that was interesting. And so you're seeing more engagement on the app, more so than in the neighborhood watches. So we may have to start thinking about how to do a little bit of both in transitioning how we keep our neighborhood safe. We talked about some recruitment ideas. The police department has put out some information on their Facebook page as well as a press release for recruitment into law enforcement. So on that end, I think they've got a pretty big class. Is that correct?
We had 103 applicants take the exam.
Okay, 103 applicants take the exam, so it's pretty good. But we also talked about, while the chief is looking at people for vacancies, how we begin to engage younger people in thinking about careers in law enforcement. So we're going to invite the head of security programs, I think, with JPS to meet with the committee. And we also talked about how we can better use our SROs in the middle schools. They seem to have really good relationships with the kids, to start to get them thinking about careers in law enforcement, as well as some ideas about adding some electives at the high school just to give students the opportunity to research and ask questions about that. So we meet the first Wednesday of every month from 5 to 6 via Zoom, which allows some of the community members just to come home and log in as the weather gets a little colder and darker. We are, anyone interested in joining the committee should get in touch with the mayor's office or myself. We would love to have additional people on the committee. We had a lot of people participate in our focus group, so we'd like to see some of those people come back to be a part of the committee in implementing the programs. One thing I did forget, though, was back in the spring, one of the first things we did ask the chief to look into was some diversity and cultural competence training for the police officers to really give them an understanding of how we got to this point in the first place. And so Chief Jackson got right on it. They went to a training in April of this year. They had 2 officers go and get trainer training and come back, and he did all 3 shifts. It was procedural justice training, understanding police legitimacy and procedural justice. And it really explored the relationship between the community and law enforcement and the role that, the relationship between the community and law enforcement throughout history and how it's played in today's kind of, the way it's played out in today. And so we're really looking at, it really gave them some understanding of really kind of why or how marginalized communities may be mistrustful of law enforcement. And so now the next step is, where do we go from here? How do we begin to recreate and build those relationships? So we'll be working on that as a police reform committee as well.
Okay, well, just a quick question, let's put you on the spot. Are you gonna stay on the committee?
I have been asked to stay in the committee.
Is the chair.
Stay on as the chair of the committee, so. Well, and the thing is, this was something we really took very seriously, and if Vicki were still here, I think she would be still on the committee too, and I really want to see this through, and I think it's important, and I think we're making some good inroads. It's going to take a while, it's not going to happen overnight, but I really think this is an important initiative, so
Thank you, Ms. Bond.
There's some good ideas in that.
yeah, and that was just in a half-hour meeting. We get in a whole hour.
That's why we need you there.
That's all we have for public.
Thank you. We'll move on to Public Works. Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. We had 2 resolutions. The first one approving the adjustment of manhole cover elevations on New York 430, New York 60, and New York 394. pursuant to section 10, subdivision 24 of the state highway law, and authorizing the director of public works to sign any and all documentation pertaining to the project, and directing the city clerk to transmit 5 certified copies of the foregoing resolution to the New York State Department of Transportation. Jeff wasn't here tonight, but, you know, Mark, yeah, Mark's last name is.
Schlemmer?
No, it wasn't Summer. That was Mark.
Great, sir.
Right, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
He explained that it's an agreement that we've had with the state, that they'll do the work and we'll maintain it. The second resolution was to authorizing the mayor to approve the water service agreement and wastewater agreement between the town of Busti and the Jamestown Board of Public Utilities. And I was gonna defer to Marie on this, but I assume this is kind of been our standard agreement we had with the town of Busti
It is.
for the next 10 years, so, oh, you're on.
I
And,
am.
yeah, anything that, I don't know.
Yeah, no, nothing too crazy. I think the mayor works pretty close with,
Yeah, we didn't even get to talk to about that.
not,
In
not.
committee, we had a kind of a spirited discussion on some of the traffic issues. And I invited Chris Brown to attend the meeting and talk, you know, just kind of throw in his opinion on some different things that I've heard people complain about, from, you know, the no left turn signal on Camp Street, which was put in there after there's been a number of accidents. But then I had a complaint from someone who lives on Walnut, who said when you turn from Walnut right onto Camp and you want to go up to the Southside Plaza, it's just kind of a hassle to go all the way around. And so I asked about, can we take that sign down? And not that I want to, but she, you know, but he said that it would be, the state put it up and then we'd have to deal with the state to take it down. And so, probably not the answer that this
So
lady would want, but.
they have to go left and then go.
Yeah, she goes right, goes down to Prather, turns left. She said, what's the difference between that left and the left on your foot? And that's a good question, so.
Well, yeah, we went through probably 5 or 6 of those different scenarios
Yeah.
that we had noticed on each side of town.
And just the parking issue at the bottom of Camp Street, but it's been an issue for a long time. Yeah, that's something that we've got to, there's, that business there is doing well, and it would be great, you know, it'd be great to move it somewhere else. They've outgrown that spot, and it'd be nice to, but anyway,
Someone died there, Tom. I don't know if you know that or not. That's why it was.
anyway, so, to Windsor Street was another thing that, they were talking, again, I had a constituent talk to me about a turning lane on Windsor where it comes to going up the hill on English. And that was another, a thing that was brought up that, Chris was gonna look into that to see if it was something that, you know, is there space to put in a turning lane? So that's something we kind of just threw out there, which we'll see. The school speed zone sign on Martin Road, moving that down to Springdale was another issue, and I believe it's even a little bit farther than we normally would have. I think Chris said they're about 200 feet from the property. These are even a little bit more than that. So that was another issue. And the speed zones on Buffalo Street, Chris brought up a point that if you had them all 20 or 25, people might start taking those side streets and going faster. So it's and I hadn't thought of that, but that's a good point, that to avoid going 20, you might take a side street, and that's not what we want either, and, you know. And then the last thing was the crosswalk on Allen Street for the hospital employees. Just the general discussion about crosswalks in general, that they're, you know, are they safe or not? It's his opinion that they're really not. That people don't stop, or, you know, and people have a false sense of security when they're walking across those. So he would recommend not doing that.
Specifically the middle of the road.
Middle of the road.
Yeah, not a normal stop.
Right, yeah, so like on Allen, with all the employees cross, I have a meeting with Mr. Miller, Cecil Miller tomorrow about that, and, so there's more to come on that. And they're all good concerns, and I have people who have, you know, I think that are concerned about safety and, just some things that, a bunch of things that come up, and so I asked Chris to attend, and I was glad to see that he did, so. Is there anything else? Just a general discussion on this.
It's a nice long list.
Yeah, and we realized that Gina needs to get up earlier to go to work because she's late because of the lights.
They're like 5 minutes sometime tomorrow.
So, any other questions for Public Works? Okay, the mayor is not here this evening, so there'll be no mayor's remarks. And I believe it's an executive session at this point, so if anybody else has anything from the new business or anything else to come before the council, we'll call it an evening, adjourn.
Everything.